Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Coding Arc, and let's get started with the part 2 of our video on SAP CAPM. Now in this session we will actually go to our BTP trial account, create an instance, and then we will try to create an entity. But before doing that, let's get our basics clear. So before jumping forward, let's understand what is a keyword and what is an identifier. Like in any other programming language, keywords are the reserved word that carry special meaning to the system compiler. Now when the compiler sees this word, it knows it's a keyword and it acts accordingly. On the other hand, identifiers is what we use to define them. So let's take our book example, and we see namespace. Namespace is a keyword and capier.bookshop is a definition to that keyword. So capier.bookshop is an identifier and namespace is a keyword. Similarly, we have using, managed, CUID, entities as keyword, and books is an identifier because that is used to define entity. Now CDS identifiers only allow their names in this pattern, but sometimes what happens, the requirement is to define the name other than this pattern. So first let's see what are all the valid identifiers. So valid identifiers are like authors, underscore customers, order 123, dollar internals. They are all valid. But let's say one day a requirement comes that my entity name should be order space details. Space is not allowed as a name for identifier, but we can use delimited identifiers. So how we will do? We will declare it using type, then exclamation, then delimited identifier, and then the type. For example, entity, exclamation, order space details, and we have a attribute inside it, order number of type string. Now we have some built-in types, predefined types in CDS, that is UUID, boolean, integer, date, vectors. So these are the basic type which is used to build our applications, but we can have more complex type, and those type will be based on this predefined types only. In the later slides we will see how to create our own type using the basic types. Now comments are very important concept of every programming language. We should always write comment when we write code, so that if we come anytime in future and we need to do any adjustment, we know what we wrote and how to change it. Not even us, let's say if any other person comes and sees our code, he should able to understand what we wrote. In CDS we have three types of comment: line end comment, block comment, and doc comment. It is similar to what we use in other programming language, just there is one exception, that in CAP Node.js, doc comments need to be switched on when calling the compiler with dash docs. But if we are using Java for our CAP application, it will automatically be enabled by the CDS Maven plugin. We will see this in future when we will do the practical. Now the most important part of CDS is defining entities. Entities are what becomes the schema for our database and metadatas. So let's understand what are entities. Entities are structured types with names and typed element representing sets of persisted data that can be read and manipulated, and we can perform CRUD operation on an entity. An entity must have one or more primary keys. For example, if we take an entity employee, an employee must have an ID. Then we can have n number of attributes like name, job title, location. Here one thing to note is either we can write define entity or we can write entity. They both are same. So define entity employees is same as entity employees. So let's jump into the system and let's see how we can instantiate our BAS, and then we can create an entity and continue forward. So you need to log in to this website accounts.hanatrial.ondemand.com. Here you need to go to your trial account. I have already completed the setups, that's why I already been redirected to this page, but you need to follow on-screen commands and complete your account setup. Then so how BTP works is we have one global account and then we have sub accounts associated to that global account. So when you will create the account, you will automatically be given one sub account. So let me just go inside my sub account trial. Now here first thing we need to tell BTP what all service we need. So BTP can add those services to our instances and subscription. So we will move to services and then service marketplace. So what we need here is BAS. BAS is nothing but business application studio. I can see this in the service marketplace. I have this SAP BAS. Now we need to create an instance of this SAP Business Application Studio. I have already clicked on my create button, that's why this button has went to gray. But in your case, if you don't have any active instance, you can just go ahead and click on create button. Next, if I go to my instances and subscription, you can see inside subscriptions I have one active subscription for SAP Business Studio. Now I need to go inside this SAP Business Application Studio. Then how this works is we have depth spaces inside our BAS, and inside depth spaces is where we take a template and then we start creating our application. So let's create an space. Let me name this space as SAP CAPM space. Now it is asking me what kind of application I am going to create. So my application is a full stack cloud application, as I am going to develop one CAPM application. I will go ahead and click on create depth space. So behind the scene it is allocating me space inside AWS server. Now where this AWS came from, when you will configure this account, you will have the option to select your cloud provider. I selected AWS, that's why it is running the server there and instantiating one depth space for me for full stack cloud application. So it will take 1 to 2 minutes to allocate me the space, and then it will be available to me. Meanwhile, let's see some more concept on CAPM. Now this is the slide where I was talking about you can create your own types using the predefined or basic types. Let's say I want to create a type amount, so that instead of defining every time value and currency inside my entity, I can just have one attribute amount, and that amount will automatically have value and currency inside it. So we just need to write this keyword define type and then the name of my type, and the predefined types it's gonna store. In my case it is value and currency. Then we can use this amount in our attribute of our entities. Now you can see my CAPM space is instantiated and it is ready. We will just click on it and go inside our space. So by default in BTP, in BAS, we have Visual Studio available for us to help in our development. So if you are using Visual Studio Code previously, you might be familiar with the controls and buttons. Now instead of doing everything manually, I will just start my project from template. Now it is asking me what type of project I want to build. So I will say my CAP project. Now I will click on start. It will ask me the name of my project. I will say book and then entity. Now as I already told you that when we are building a CAP project, we have two runtimes available, Node.js and JavaScript. So this tutorial will be all about Node.js. Now in future we will see how to use HANA Cloud and PostgreSQL as our databases, but to keep this tutorial simple, I will just use inbuilt SQLite to show you how it is getting added to the database and how CRUDs are performed. So we will leave everything as default. We are not going to select anything. We will surely come in future and we will see all this option one by one. Now if I click on create, my all the dependencies will get installed and it will again take some seconds to instantiate my project. Now if you are familiar with Node.js and JavaScript, you know we have this package.json file where all the dependencies that we install comes under this dependencies array. So developing and CAP application using Node.js, we should have this SAP CDS dependencies installed. Now before moving forward, let's go to our terminal by clicking on this icon. Then we can click on terminal. Then first thing we should do is we should run this command npm install. This will validate our packages and tell us if we have any errors or vulnerabilities in. Let's create an entity. So we will go to our DB and let's create a new file. Name this file as book.cds. So this is the workspace where we will write our code to define the entity. First, let's define the namespace. We will define it using the keyword namespace, then db.book. Now, while creating our entity, we will use cuid and managed services. So we need to import these codes from the library, that is SAP CDS common. So how to do that? We will use the keyword using and then the cuid, it should be comma separated, then managed. Now from @SAP/CDS/common. Now we need to define our entity. Either we can use define entity keyword or directly entity keyword. Let me define it using entity keyword, then the name of the entity. The name of the entity should always start with a capital letter and it should be pluralized. So instead of book, it is books. Now here I will use CUID and managed. Now what are all the attributes I want to have in my entity book? First, I will have a title to my book. The title will be of type string. It is semicolon separated, remember that. Next, I will have description to my book and it will be also of type string. Then I will have genre to my book. Now genre is also of type string, but I always want to have genre from a list. It is not that user can give any genre. So I need to declare an enum. Let me show you how to declare an enum. So to define an enum, we will use the keyword define type, then my enum genre. Now it will be of type string and it will be an enum. Now what are all the possible values I want to give? So I am saying my genre can be of type education or type fiction or type comedy. Now whenever someone will come and try to define genre, it should be inside my selected list only. So now I will go ahead and give in my genre the type genre. Now my entity declaration is complete. Now let's create a service and see how it looks. So we will move to our service folder SRV and let's try to create an interaction to our entity. I will name the file as interaction underscore book.cds. Now we need to use the namespace that we defined earlier. So how we will do that? We will do that by using the keyword using, then my namespace. Then I will take this namespace from db dot. First I need to declare my root, then db, then book. Now I need to define the service. So how we will do that? We will use service, then the name of my service, which is book underscore service. Then I need to declare one projection view and I need to select it from my entity which I just now created. So I will write an entity which is a projection on my book entity. So as projection on my entity book entity. So what I will do, I will write book dot, I will have my books entity. Now let's see what service I just built. So for this I will use the keyword cds watch. So using this command I will get an option to see this service on the port 4004. If I open it on a new tab, You can see I just defined the service projection underscore book. It is now visible here. So I can just go inside this entity and see what are all values I am having. Currently I am not having any value. We can also take a look at the generated Fury. As you can see, it's a blank Fury application. We have all the columns we just added. Now let's try to have the same JSON response with one of our extension which will help us to test the APIs. So I have this extension called Talent API Tester. Now here we can choose our method, and then we will use this entity. We will send this request, and you will see we are having that exact response which we had just now. Now let's try to create an entity using our this API management platform. So I'll change the mode from get to post. Now here we need to build a body with JSON format. JSON format always starts and ends with a curly braces. It is comma separated, and we have key and its value. So let's create a book whose title is SAP CAPM, description is book on SAP CAPM, and genre is education. Now if I go ahead and send this request, I get my response 201, which means created, and we can see our unique IDs and our values. Let's move to our Fiori screen and once more refresh this page using this go button, and now we can see our one record that got entered into our database with entity which we just created. So we can see the title is SAP CAPM, ID is this, description is, and genre is what we just gave. So that's all for this video. We will meet in some another video with new concept. Thank you.